Welcome to today's episode. If you're excited about blockchain and AI technology and want to learn from one of the industry's top leads, then stay tuned. Our guest today is Stefano Tempesta, an entrepreneur, CTO, technology manager, and software architect. He has a deep interest in cloud security, blockchain, and AI-related technologies. Stefano advised the Department of Industry and Science of Australia on the National Blockchain Roadmap and was awarded Gold Distributor by the Australian Computer Society in 2019. He is one of the few Microsoft regional directors globally, known for his cross-platform expertise and community leadership. Join us as we dive into Stefano's journey, his insights on emerging technologies, and his experience in the tech industry. Stay tuned for all the insights.
Hi everyone, welcome to this amazing podcast today. Today we have an amazing human. I don't even know how to introduce you, Stefano, because you are a man with many talents, right? But I feel like I'm so excited for this one because we can talk about quite a few subjects based on your experience and what you have done and what you're doing as well, which is amazing. So hi to everyone in our Web3 community. This is going to be a banger podcast. So let's get into it. So
let's get into it.
Exactly. So Stefano, thank you so much for agreeing to come on our podcast. And I'll pass the mic to you so that you can introduce who you are and a little bit about your background, and then let's get into it.
Yeah, amazing. And thanks, Blockstars, for these opportunities. It's really cool to be here, right? And after an amazing week, Blockchain Week in Sydney, now the opportunity now to carry on the conversation around everything great that is happening in this country around Web3. It's just amazing because there is such a big momentum at the moment. And I've been in Web3 blockchain space for about 7-8 years now. And I find it fascinating how the enthusiasm, the passion is in this field, which is not just about cryptocurrency. So this is a great opportunity in this podcast that we have because now there is so much that we know about blockchain, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and this is the opportunity to demystify it. So I'm really looking forward to it. But look, very briefly, I'm Stefano Tempesta, originally from Italy, but I made Australia home for the last 12 years now. I'm based in Gold Coast. At ACS, the Australian Computer Society, I sort of volunteer to lead or co-lead the blockchain committee. It's a working group. We meet regularly and we discuss how we can expand the adoption of blockchain and Web3 technology in the country. There are aspects of purely evangelization about blockchain in terms of meetups, participating at events, running panels, and also publications. So we do write some stuff and we publish it so people can access this information, which is from governance to adoption, market insight, and a bit of technology. I'm a person of technology. I like all the aspects of building stuff on the blockchain and on a little personal promotional aspect. I've just published a book that is all about building blockchain application in the cloud. So yeah, I like the aspect of technology because at the end, technology is the enabler that can make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, exactly right. That you mentioned about the book that you published, which is called, I believe it's called Blockchain Applied, right?
Correct. Yes.
You co-authored that book, and I think that's a really good place to start as well, because look, people here. I mean, I have Nathan here with me, and Nathan, I think that we spoke about today is that people still think cryptocurrency and blockchain are still the same, right? So these people don't really identify the separation of it. So if someone comes to you and say, Stefano, what is blockchain? What is cryptocurrency? how would you break it down to them?
Yeah, look, it's not a bad misconception. It's a good association because at the end, the cryptocurrency is sort of the silver bullet app that runs on a blockchain. But there is so much more to blockchain than only cryptocurrency. And I'll make you an example. We are very familiar with all the aspects of having intermediaries like banks or anything that process a transaction, financial transaction, that can be any kind of transaction. If you and I exchange some goods, so there is someone in between that sort of authorize and process that transaction. And obviously, we are used to credit card payments, these sorts of things. Now, this is not bad. This is how the economy works. This is all perfectly good. But a few years ago, an entity called Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, and I'm saying an entity because their identity is not clear. Is a person, is a group of people, is still alive, he or she is still alive, we don't really know, right? So this entity came up with a concept of a peer-to-peer transaction, so between individuals that don't need intermediaries. This is running on a blockchain. Why is different? Why is revolutionary? Not because we don't like intermediaries, but because intermediaries, like banks, are often used for the wrong purpose. And I'll give you another example that will make it very clear, which is the example that brought me into blockchain itself. I can explain what blockchain is. Blockchain, in a very nutshell, is a decentralized digital ledger. So a big database or a list of transactions, but decentralized. So I don't own it, you don't own it, but all of us have a copy of it. Why is this important? Because I felt that whatever we add this big database to this digital ledger has to be true. And I cannot make it, I cannot add the record only to my copy because it wouldn't be on your copy. And you, vice versa, you cannot just something on your copy of it because I will not have it. Likewise, if I add something that is wrong into this ledger, then you can question it and say, hey, that's not right. So let's agree on something that is correct. This is the democracy of transaction and databases in the world, because there is no entity that control this sort of digital ledger, but all of us has to agree on putting something into this database and making sure that everybody agrees on the value of it. Is a democratic approach, because if we don't agree, then it doesn't go ahead. This is, without going too much into the technical details, this is a consensus mechanism. Now, the example that I want to mention is what brought me to blockchain a few years ago, is verifiable credentials attached to your digital identity. I was working for a private education company at the time, and we wanted basically to put the curriculum study of students on a blockchain attached to the student ID. One day, those students can immigrate to another country, as I did when I moved to Australia, and I had to have the Department of Immigration verify all my credentials, my university degree, my knowledge of English, my previous employment, and whatever was necessary for granting a visa at the time. Or maybe students can apply for a job, so their future employer wants to verify their academic study. So anything that has to be verified requires some manual intervention. Very likely there are some files, some images, some scans, some PDFs that are shared. You know how easy it is to Photoshop things now, especially with the generative AI. You can easily fake a lot of certificate and sorts of things. Yeah. Now think for a moment, if we can not only digitize this, because electronic signature already exists for years and years, but electronic signature is controlled by a private entity that decide that your document is true or false. The moment they are no longer in business or the moment they are compromised, then the verification process is completely gone. It's not reliable any longer. But coming back to the decentralized digital ledger, you and me and thousands of other people have a copy of this, not the document, but a fingerprint of the document, something that is like a checksum. Technically is a hash value, is a sequence of characters and numbers that identifies that certificate, that ID in a unique way. And no one else has the same value. So we're not storing any confidential or private information on the blockchain. We are only storing its electronic signature on it, which is unique. Now, the moment the Department of Immigration in Australia needs to verify that document, they don't need the PDF copy of it, which again, it can be photoshopped, it can be altered. They just need to verify directly on the blockchain. In a matter of seconds, they know that that document is genuine, belongs to me, has been issued by that authority, and is true and has not been compromised. If someone tried to compromise, to change even a single byte, a single character inside the document, this hash value would be completely different. And the good thing about hash values, which is a cryptographic function, is that they cannot be reversed. So if you steal, so to speak, the hash value, and then you try to revert back to the original document, you can't. It's only one-way cryptographic function. I know I'm getting into much of details now, but the core of this is basically that blockchain enables trust between entities without intermediaries that provide the trust at a fee. And this is the revolution that cryptocurrency brings. We can make transactions using cryptocurrency without relying on any government, any bank to authorize the transaction itself. Which brings me, and then I close to my previous point, banks and governments are not meant to verify or to store the source of currency or documents. They are meant to issue and verify. And this is the big challenge that happens now. The intermediaries, are, even including government entities, are not doing the best way of use of the technology, the tools that they have, because they issue plastic cards for your traveling license. But the responsibility is not the plastic card. They don't need to issue the plastic card. What they need to do is to make sure that the title is genuine and they can verify. Then someone else should produce the plastic card. So this is what blockchain provides. Blockchain provides the possibility for entities like government, banks, lawyers, notaries to still do their job, but at the best way of it, which is issuing and verifying. But the actual storage of it, leave it to the blockchain, because then you have to deal with it. And it is a super secure means of storage, because historically, a lot of centralized databases sooner or later been compromised. We hear a lot of story of password being leaked, the credit cards being disclosed. Bitcoin has never been compromised. It's technology that is using it's an application that is using blockchain technology that has never been hacked. There must be a reason for that, right? So all this to say that at the end, blockchain is fascinating because it introduces a different way of thinking. It's not about removing intermediaries. It's about making sure that these entities, government or private entities, can do their job in a better way. And this is what I find fascinating, and this is what I describe in the book. Different use cases, digital identity, verifiable credentials, supply chain, where you can track the provenance of different goods on the supply chain, different products on the supply chain in a unique way, proof of authenticity, proof of ownership. This is all fascinating things in addition to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is great, but it's not the only thing that you can run on a blockchain.
Are you looking to integrate your business systems with cutting-edge AI technology? Our expert team is here to help you use the power of AI to innovate, streamline, and enhance your current business operations. Contact us today at 1-800-870-200 or visit blockstars.com.au.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? People, I think that people just put associated with blockchain or Bitcoin, they just put Ether. I mean, that's the biggest use case, right? I think that's what people get to know, and people don't talk about like supply chain. I guess like people can't see without knowing the blockchain. I think it's like the blockchain, the word is like being used quite a bit in a sense, like big data. Just put the name, but under the ledger technology. So one of the things that you mentioned here is that how the blockchain is being used in quite a few areas. Like you mentioned, the supply chain tracking. Like we know in Asian countries, like when you say for alcohol, or for example, now majority, about 70% of spirits, for example, or even wine for that matter, we know that they are not the real brand, and there have been quite a few people, companies, and still working out how we can use, how can we make sure that we guarantee this is the real thing. Do you think that blockchain will be able one day to overcome this, or is it's not more than the blockchain itself? You to lay a few more technologies to get there.
Look, it is already been used for tracking some of the supply chain processes, the proof of provenance, and so where things are coming from, so that we can track it to the very origin and making sure that they're coming from the brand, as you mentioned. But it's not just about products, also food is a big opportunity to make sure that the food supply chain is what they say they come from. So there is a lot of attention on wines, for example, or meat, or anything really, cheese, to come from the region of origin. So now, is this being used? To some extent, yes. Can blockchain resolve the problem? It can, but I also want to make sure that now we don't send the wrong message that there is something that doesn't work now and blockchain can fix everything. And I position myself as a Web3 athlete, or someone that is really passionate about Web3 blockchain. So I want to use as much blockchain technology as possible. But I'm also very conscious that I want to don't transfer the right message. Blockchain can help, but it's not the only solution that can be put in place. It's because, yes, there is a lot of aspect of transparency that blockchain can provide. Think of the traditional supply chain. Every stage is controlled by the parties that operate the supply chain, and there is always a risk that the transition from one stage to another one, from the producer to the distributor to the supplier to the storage to the courier to the store around the corner, there is always a risk that someone doesn't go well, and then the two parties sort of find a compromise, and then this compromise get hidden in the process. So counterfeited products arrive to stores because at some point someone hasn't verified everything. It happens. It's not about blaming, it's about acknowledging that there is a fault in the process. But this is why, because there is no transparency and visibility on the supply chain. It is managed end-to-end by only the parties that are part of it. Blockchain can provide a level of transparency, because being a digital ledger and being distributed, decentralized, as we mentioned, if a party doesn't agree with what is being recorded on this digital ledger, they don't accept the record, and then obviously the supply chain will stop. But it's not the only solution. The big opportunity here is integration with IoT, Internet of Things devices that can help automate this process. Because if there is no automation in place, then obviously the entire supply chain is not going to work. This is something that, yes, I do describe in the book, which is called Blockchain Applied, because it is about things that have already happened. It is applied to real use cases. And I like this aspect because, it shows how blockchain can be really, really used for this kind of use cases. And has already been used. So these are real companies, real case studies. Mm-hmm. And the combination of blockchain and IoT can definitely help to keep track of all these things over time. Meaning that there are sensors, these IoT devices, that can automatically record the progress of products on the supply chain from the original brand, the manufacturer that has produced it, all the way to the distribution chain, and send the information to a smart contract. A smart contract is a sort of an application that runs on a blockchain that automatically record, validate the transaction according to a set criteria. If these criteria are not met, the blockchain will stop, the smart contract will stop the recording of the transaction on the blockchain, which will stop the supply chain itself. And this is the great opportunity. There are some technology challenges to make it happen at scale, but it's technically possible now.
Yeah. I think that's something, it's there's nothing, I don't know whether there's anything that has a silver bullet for one solution just like solves it, I think all is constantly layered with all that, so
That's it.
Yeah, right now we are there was a bit of a blockchain boom, and then before it really could took off, then we have AI. So
yes,
people call it now Web4. Some people are like, oh, it's Web4. I don't even know how many webs we have, because they're like, people putting these numbers now, right? So, but for me, what interests is like whatever stage that is, I see that it's like really good. Now, I think, people talk about AI, what data did we use to train our AI, or I don't, how can you have it create that trust without having that trust? And I see there's a great relationship between AI and blockchain for the first time, that we can really show, okay, like this is what we can use, rather than just, okay, now we can just use these two technologies. Now it's even cooler than just by itself. Now I feel like there's some real requirement there. What is your take on it?
there is, and again, it's all about transparency and visibility. That's the big value of blockchain, building trust with technology, with code, with smart contract. And it's funny that you say this, because a few years ago there was a lot of conversation about using AI to fight fake news. Also using some AI technology, some machine learning algorithm to identify fake news, and especially spreading on social networks and influencing people, elections, movements, and flight, right? Now we are actually using AI technology to create deep fakes. Right? So people that say something that actually they're not there. I can use the AI technology to generate a video of Barack Obama saying something, and he never said that. And it's so authentic, so realistic, that the people will fall for it easily. So now we are at this paradox situation where AI can help fighting fake news by identifying patterns and all this fake news, but the same AI technology of slightly different flavor, but so-called AI technology, is used to create these fake stuff, videos, images, content, news at scale. And that's the worrying things. So we don't need now people to write an article. We can use an algorithm, an AI algorithm, to create any fake news at scale. Now, here is the opportunity that you mentioned. No, can blockchain help on this? And again, let's take this, with a bit of pinch of salt. It's not about getting the blockchain to save the world here, but it's about using blockchain in the right approach, which is connected to the verifiable credential experience that I made a few years ago. In that case, was for universities, so in the academic world, in the higher education. But if we translate this to media, we can journals and magazines, official entities that create news, then they can verify when they publish the news and hash their content on a blockchain, obtaining a unique value that can be verified by, for example, social networks before they publish it. So without putting names, right? But the like of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so on, they are so open that anybody can publish everything, and they don't control the source. Is this coming from Forbes? Is this coming from New York Times? Is this coming from whatever sort of legal authority in journalism, or is this coming from whatever person around the corner that is running some generative AI to produce some fake content because they feel like they know the word and they've studied in the street, right? I mean, so everybody can do that. But what they cannot do is obtain verified credential that they can attach to this value on the blockchain, because they're not a verified entity. And Forbes, New York Times, MIT University, whoever is an entity that we trust, then they can issue this sort of checksum of their news, put them on a blockchain, and be used for verification before it's published. Again, is part of the solution, but it's definitely an approach that can be taken.
Because I read somewhere that in our mobile phones there is a location that is pretty much a secure location in a space that nothing can write to it. It's only used for like credit cards and things like that to store that type of secure, like encrypted data. And they say like now what they're doing is, when they say there are quite a few like Apple, Microsoft, Meta, IBM, Adobe, and two of them coming together. So they're creating this, and also from the hardware perspective as well, what they're doing is they're looking at not a blockchain per se, but a DLT, like a distributed ledger, so that if you start recording, okay, I took the picture from my phone, so my phone is tied to my ID, like it's a verifiable identification, and then that carries throughout the whole video production or snapshot, everything, and then it gets built into the software as well. And then you would not really remove that metadata, so that when you go to, when you post a photo, for example, onto, I don't know, a social media platform, you'll have a little icon there that tells, okay, look, here this is real from this person.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Exactly. This is a good way not to verifying the source, where this is coming from. And let me add a quick comment to that, because it's interesting. You obviously you mentioned a few big companies, Microsoft, Apple, and the like, and I did mention also some Forbes, New York Times, and we tend to identify these big American corporates with being on the right side of publishing news and verifying things and a representation of a democratic world. And this is okay to some extent, but if the message is that we are sending is only the big American world is a representation of the goods, then we are transferring a message that the Western stereotype and biases are the correct one. But this is not true entirely, right? We all know that. And we want to be sure that we represent the diversity of different cultures, different backgrounds, and not everything that is okay for the US is okay for other countries, because they need different standards and different cultures, different aspects of their way of living. But again, this is what a blockchain technology can offer, because blockchain is not controlled by Microsoft, by Amazon, by Apple. This is your phone is controlled by this organization, and they can put whatever they want in there. A blockchain network is completely decentralized, and it will offer the opportunity to anybody, not just the big American corporate, to be there and issue the credentials that can be then verified. So everybody can be there and represent an authority. Now, obviously, this openness creates a risk, and then also entities with ill intent can create their own circle on blockchain and issue something that is signed by them and then verified as good news rather than fake news. But at that point, is the risk of democracy, right? Is the risk of being open, and over time, I tend to trust people overall, and I believe in the intelligence of the mass. Over time, it will filter out the bad actors and prefer or choose the good actors that are aligned to the way you want to live. That's the opportunity of the blockchain in some way, because being open means that everybody can use it, but the opportunity is also not to be confined or restricted to one way of living our world, which is what we typically tend to receive when using or accessing most of these Western influenced social networks, news, so on. So it's a balance, right? Risk and opportunity.
Exactly. I think that's thank you for bringing that up. I think that's really important, just because of the fact we found that we tie the trust to the brand name without really realizing what happens. I mean, we know what happened with Cambridge Analytica, with Facebook. We're not really free. And so just want to come back to you, Stefano. So you work with the Australian government for a little while. So can you give us a little bit about how did you come about that, and what was involved with the Department of Industries? I know they can talk about it. I would love to know how the governments operate. Now, are they open to listening to you, or what is that? Also, you say, just a tick box, just take some box. Yes. Advice for expert,
Not only that, to be honest. Yes, there were a lot of boxes ticked for sure. But the initiative you're referring to is the National Blockchain Roadmap. And look, I'm very proud to say that Australia is one of the very few, less than 10 countries in the world that have published a National Blockchain Roadmap, which is basically a sort of program of intent, how to leverage blockchain technology for the benefit of the country. There were different working groups. There was one specialized on supply chain, one more on the financial aspect of using blockchain technology. I was on the decentralized digital identity and verifiable credentials. Excellent working group with a mix of academic. So there were some professors from universities and some people more from the field. What I mean is someone with my background, so a bit more technical, that is implementing stuff. So that would balance really well between the need to have more of a academic vision and more of a practical touch on the implementation itself. The output was a recommendation paper that is part of the National Blockchain Roadmap that will basically create an incentive for businesses operating in Australia to build solutions according to these guidelines or recommendation. Some of these are already happening, and some grants have been also issued by the government to create an ecosystem of startups or scale-up businesses that can develop this further. So it was an interesting conversation. It lasted for 18 months. Great networking, still in contact with a lot of people there, and again, the opportunity is for governments to be proactive in this space, right? So because blockchain is not something that is controlled by a big company, but by Microsoft, Amazon, Apple, Google, whatever. This is the opportunity really to own the technology, which is completely open, and create business and services to citizens. If one day we can all agree to have all our credentials nicely digitized and verified on a blockchain, we have two benefits. One is we are more inclusive, so that everybody can have access to these services, even those that don't normally have access to identity. And believe it or not, there is a report from the World Bank that that has identified that over 1 billion people worldwide, so 1 billion people out of 8, I believe we are in the world at the moment, doesn't have a verifiable form of identity. That is mind-blowing for me. So that means that 1 billion people don't have access to basic services like education, employment in a legal way, because without traveling, obviously, because without ID, you are no one. You are completely disappear. And obviously, we are lucky enough in Australia where we don't see a lot of this poverty. There are some, but overall we live in a very privileged country. But 1 billion people worldwide don't have access to any form of identification. So this is the opportunity to create a more inclusive world, and it's something that I'm very, particularly fond on. There is this banner that's going, that is scrolling here, or let's say Web3 architect, but also blockchain for good ambassador. This is the for good label on it. Is make sure that blockchain is technology in general, including AI technology, is used to provide for the people in need, for humanitarian purposes, to make an impact on our communities, on our society, and to make the world a little bit better. I'm a scout leader. I have been a scout for many years initially in Italy, and now here in Australia as an adult leader. And I value the opportunity to help the new generation grow and become the leader of the future. And we that are the leaders today, that we are in the working economy, have the opportunity to make the world a little bit better in whatever way we can do it, we can contribute. So this is my way of contributing. Australia has given me a lot from living opportunities, and I like to give back volunteering at ACS, Australian Computer Society, the government initiative, National Blockchain Roadmap, and any other aspect that can make this community and this society a little bit better.
Yeah, no, that's good, because I got a question around the ID and not having access to something. Like, for example, in developing countries, when you talk about, it doesn't really, like you said, it doesn't really happen in Western countries or in Australia, side of countries, because pretty much when you're born, you got the full ID, you got access to everything else on your ID. But when you look at like developing countries, they can't do that because they don't have birth certificate. They don't, so they are deprived of access to to government services as such, or they can't do business because they can't accept money and all that. Now, for me, as much as I like to have digital ID, but I also like to see another avenue, because now I have a peer-to-peer system so that you don't really need to have an ID, because look, we know ID can be exploited for the wrongs, and I wouldn't say it's happening for every time it's happening. And the good thing about that is that we have like zero knowledge proofs and things like that, so that you don't reveal all the information. You can say like, oh, I'm 18, but I heard you at my birthday, for example. So
Yeah.
I'm really interested in to sort of dive a little bit into like, okay, do we really need an ID to be part of an economy, or is there a one? It's something. Okay, if I will travel, definitely I need a passport, I need an ID, a visa, things like that. But answer, do I need an ID for that? What is your take on those?
No, but this is a good question because it creates the doubt. Do I need an ID for everything that I do? And who is owning this ID? Who is controlling it? Is the government or whoever tracking me? A few years ago, during the pandemic, we had that app that we had to download and check in every places we will go. Where is that data going? And actually, I may be wrong now, but I believe it was stored in a cloud data center, not even in Australia. Maybe they changed it later, but initially I was reading this news that our own data as Australian citizens was stored in a cloud data center outside of the country. Now, how bizarre is that, right? Now, who has access to this data and who is doing with it? Now, there was one app, but how many of the other apps we're using every day that track what we do, and ID, our digital ID, will be part of this. Now, if you step back a little bit and say, look, I'm a honest citizen, I don't care because I have nothing to hide, right? So that is one way of seeing things. The other way of seeing things is that at the same time, I have a right for privacy. So I don't mind if you know what I'm buying every day or where I'm moving, because I honestly have nothing to hide, so I'm not concerned about it. At the same time, I want my privacy to be respected. So now this is the great opportunity of a DID, decentralized identity, which is a component running on a blockchain. It's not only about blockchain, there is so much more DID than just a blockchain digital ledger. But the opportunity there is to provide something that is disclosable based on actual needs. And what I mean with that is that sometimes we have a lot of pieces of information of our ID into a single document. A passport contains not only my name, my date of birth, and a few other information around my identity. And my driving license has also my address, my photo. So we have different IDs that have multiple pieces of information, multiple data points. But when we present this document to access something, say check in a hotel. Now, when I check in an hotel, I give my passport. Sometimes they even scan it, take a photocopy of it. How is this going? Right? Why are you doing this? And all they need is to verify my name. Or you don't need anything else. Right? So, we check in, or whatever other service we give our driving license just to make sure that we're boarding a flight and we show our driving license for a domestic flight. And again, it's good that they see that the name matches the boarding pass, but why do they care about my date of birth or the address where I live? So there are a lot of things that are completely unnecessary. Now, this is the problem with this sort of ID, this sort of documents that are centralized, they're on a plastic card or passport paper, whatever that is. a digital identity, a decentralized digital identity, a DID, I can decide what kind of information I can disclose with the other party based on the specific demand to access the service. I'm checking in an hotel, you only need first name and last name. You don't need anything else. So I'll go with my device, I'll do the check-in, an app comes up, and the other party will ask me for some pieces of information on my ID, and I say, yes, I can transfer this. But the moment I see that they're asking for too many data points, I can deny the transaction. Obviously, smart apps are configured to demand and accept only the data points that are actually needed. But if I see that there is an over asking, then I can stop the sharing and only share the data points of my ID that are exclusively needed to complete the transaction.
Yeah.
That is a process. Is part of the solution. Blockchain can help with that because the transaction can be then stored on a blockchain and made it visible, transparent. So one day we can see that when I checked into the hotel or boarded the flight or bought the service, I transfer only this piece of information and anything else. And again, these data points will be encrypted, protected on blockchain using the hashing mechanism that I mentioned before, and everything will be visible and transparent, at the same time also protected for privacy.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think like some people say like I used to say the same thing like, oh, I got nothing to hide, so I'm okay with it. But then someone asked me, a very smart person asked me like, all right, Kosi, can I look at your phone, please? And I'm like, no, you can't. Like, okay, so you do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But don't get me wrong. When I say I don't have anything to hide, yes, because I'm a honest citizen in front of honest people. The problem is that me not hiding something will entitle some dishonest people to abuse my honesty.
Yeah.
For example, if I transparent of my whereabouts and I say that I'm not home this week, that I'm away, then someone can think, oh, you're not home, so let me think about
That's right.
how it be your home for a visit, right? so that's an abuse of your right for transparency. So we have a right for privacy, but we have also a right for this bill for transparency. I need to feel free to disclose where I am and what I'm doing, knowing that no one is going to abuse of this piece of information. And likewise, I have the right and the need to protect my privacy, to prevent an inappropriate use of this information.
Are you planning to launch a blockchain project? At Blockstars, we specialize in developing blockchain projects from your initial idea to the final product. To launch your successful blockchain project, drop us an email to hello@blockstars.com.au. Yeah, and I think now this is why I'm like really bullish, on in the Web3 stuff. When we started Blockstars, now it's about 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago, 3 years ago now. In 2021, we started Blockstars, and at that time, the buzz was NFTs, and so about, oh, let's get NFTs. And I mean, the first time I heard about Bitcoin, someone told me like, hey, Kosi, do you mine Bitcoin? And this was in 2013, and I'm like, I said, mate, don't worry about it. I see Silverlight, Flash, all that stuff come and go. I said, I don't, just like, that's going to just fad, just don't worry about it. But then, and I'm in deep tech, I'm a developer and all that. And I just told this guy who's not a developer, but he just saw the nuances and he saw like, oh no, this decentralized currency course, it's going to give. And the funny thing was, before really I got my got into Web3, like blockchain, like really in 2016, 2017, I didn't really understand what it's all about. I thought, oh, it's like a digital currency, like, what's the difference? But then I got to learn about, oh, you know what? For the first time, we might even like do peer-to-peer without going through another party. It's almost like LimeWire on Napster on steroids, and that got me really on the tech. So, so what was that moment for you? What was that moment for you? Like, oh wow, there's something in it. What was that your first recollection in that space?
I don't know. There are many, to be honest. I think it's really all the different collaborations that happened. Starting with learning about the technology myself and try to apply to some specific use cases. So beyond the cryptocurrency, and then making a collaboration with government, with ACS, and that for work, because currently I'm also working on a blockchain project, which is more in the carbon credit space. So everything is a moment of realization in some way. I guess my big light bulb moment was when I decided, okay, after a few years that I've been doing this, I feel like I want to write about it, and that's the book that came out a year later. And there was a moment of realization for me, because not only I felt like I'm learning a lot and then I can really use this technology for something good, but I felt also actually I can help others to do even better. I actually hope they do even better than what I'm doing on using this blockchain technology, because then is the part of growing, raising other leaders in the industry, in the society. So for me, going through the process of writing my first book, I've done a lot of blog writing in the past, but never as structured as telling an end-to-end story and put this into 200 pages. That moment was a moment of eureka moment for me, realization to say, oh wow, I can look at the things organically, and say, I've done a lot of different projects here and there. I blogged about all these different projects separately, so they are sort of siloed. There was the supply chain that I've done with IoT devices, and there was an article about it that I published in some e-magazine. And then there was the decentralized identity verifiable credential that I did for work. And then I spoke about it at some conferences. And then there was the collaboration with the National Blockchain Roadmap with the Department of Industry and Science, and that was a white paper as an outcome. So there were different pieces disorganized, siloed in some way. The unique, the light bulb moment, the revelation moment that you mentioned was, wow, actually there is a line that connects all of this, and we can put them all together. And this is what book is about, putting all together the stories, so you can provide, hopefully, that inspiration, the spark for others to build and do better.
Yeah, and also you also lecture in a few places, right?
Yes, look, this is part of making sure that we demystify about blockchain, transfer the right message, and not teach. I don't like the word teaching, but more coaching or mentoring people on the use of technology, and for identifying the use cases. And actually, it is more about coaching rather than teaching, because during my lecturing, I'm not only sharing what I know about blockchain, but I also try to create in people the interest to come up with their own ideas. Okay, I have done these 3, 4, 5 different use cases, how I use blockchain. And the last one is carbon credits. But what can you think of it? What it doesn't have to be necessarily a business idea. I'm not expecting everybody to come up with a blockchain startup, but any good concept that can come out with after this lecture is a great opportunity to continue growing the adoption of blockchain in the country.
Mhm. And I think you're right, saying like, because when you think about it, the first application that came out on the iPhone was a beer drinking app, and Angry Birds. I love Angry Birds, right? And all that combination parts. But you see, we had to go through those stages, and I think with the blockchain as well, we went through quite a few stages. The ICOs, and then the NFTs with the DeFi, and we are going now again back to Solana ecosystem with the meme coins and all those things. And I think it I don't, as a waste of time, they're like scams and all those things. I think scams are part of everyday life, right? Whether it's like the financial sector, we had those big scams like Enron and all that. It was tough, but I think what it does, it creates better structures, better framework, better legal framework, and also it keeps the technology forward. So I'm like super bullish, and you mentioned the farm carbon credits. Now, we have a couple of cortex carbons credits in. Yeah, background noise. We can power through it. So I just want to talk about like what is your experience about carbon credits, and what is the reason you see the benefit of having a blockchain to back up carbon credits? Because obviously there's a big need for it.
Carbon credits is my current field of interest. It is a completely volunteer market at the moment and completely unregulated. And this is the risk, but again, also the opportunity to inject some blockchain technology in it. The need is, let's start from the problem, okay? So we are obviously running a world that is getting overpolluted, so we need to offset our carbon footprint. When I say offset, it's actually not a fantastic way of fighting pollution, because offsetting a carbon footprint means that as a corporate, as a business, I keep on producing my carbon, but I just offset by buying equivalent of carbon dioxide from a green project. Now, this is like washing your hands but doing nothing about removing the dirt at the source, without entering into conversation on how this should be done in a better way, because also I'm not qualified for that. I look at only at the technology part of it. A better way, obviously, would be to reduce your carbon emissions and help fighting climate change. But that's again for another story. Let's stay on how blockchain can help in here. The opportunity here is for green project developers, so those that plant trees or replant trees in arid areas, those that produce a biochar, which is an excellent product that contains carbons in soil, whereas carbon is supposed to be in soil and not wasted into the atmosphere, to sell their production to companies that want to offset the carbon footprint. It's a marketplace at the end. It's the opportunity for corporate, big businesses to offset the carbon footprint by buying tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, but they have to buy from someone that is producing it. How do they produce this carbon footprint? There are different ways. Reforestation is part of it. Biochar is another product. The problem with all these approaches is that there is no scientific way to measure it. There are a lot of approximation. One very common way of doing it is that I take a picture today on my land, and I take a picture a year later, typically a satellite picture, and I see the difference in growing of trees. right? So that difference, we will calculate like a gut feeling how much more carbon dioxide is produced by those trees as part of the because they're growing,
Like
right?
absorb from the atmosphere.
For because the as they are absorbed from the atmosphere, correct? Exactly. No, now this is absolutely an approximation, and also nothing is actually verifying that that's correct or not. Now, there are some entities that are coming out in this field, in this market, that go field by field and verify this. But again, the process is incredibly long, it's incredibly expensive, and not accurate. So this is give the opportunity for blockchain. There is one big thing about blockchain, which is comes actually from cryptocurrency, is the tokens. Currency at the end is a native token of a blockchain network. They cannot be spent twice. Is the principle of not double spending, which means that if I transfer a token to you, if I transfer a Bitcoin to you, I cannot retransfer that same Bitcoin to another person. Otherwise, it's like cloning money, right? The same principle applies also to carbon. At the end, a file on our computer, I can copy a file and send the same picture, the same file to a lot of different people. We cannot do the same with tokens on a blockchain. If I issue a token and then transfer to you, you own it, and I don't own it anymore. And I cannot clone it. Otherwise, what's the point? So it's like cloning cryptocurrency. So the same will apply to carbon credits. Once the carbon credit has been tokenized, once the quantity of token has been tokenized, then and verified, then a company using this marketplace can buy the token, and the token, once it's been transferred, it cannot be sold to another business. So basically, what project developers do is they say, "Oh, I can produce 100 tons of carbon equivalents this year, and maybe 150 next year, maybe 200 next year, because not my field, my production is expanding." And as a business, they want to offset the carbon footprint. They can make a commitment to buy either as a pre-purchase tons of carbon equivalents today and pay you now, or I can make a commitment to buy over time, like a subscription. Every year, I'll buy 100 tons of carbon equivalent to offset part of my carbon production. In this way, project developers are funding their project. And consider, these project developers, they are mostly farmers or small organizations, small entities, sometimes even private individuals in emerging countries. So that is an opportunity to fight poverty as well, because they will struggle to sell their carbon equivalent if they don't have a marketplace to make this transaction happen. And at the same time, the opportunity is to provide verified and tokenized, so no double spending, carbon to big corporates, so then they can offset the carbon footprint. And there is a third opportunity, which is more on the sort of financial investment side, even for the public. As an individual, myself, I'm not a project developer. I'm not a corporate business that wants to offset the carbon footprint. I can still buy some green bonds and as a investment. In this way, I financing the project developers. So the project developers will have an injection of money, of funds now. They can invest into the business. Over time, they produce more and more carbon. So the value of carbon grows because there is more demand, and as any market, no, that the price of asset is driven by offer and demand. When the demand increases, the value of carbon grows, and then they can pay these bonds or the dividends of the bonds to the investors. It becomes a form of investment even for the public. So it's a fantastic opportunity to not only to monetize on it, but to make an impact on climate change and provide the opportunity for project developers to fund the project, produce more and more good carbon, for corporate to offset the carbon footprint, and for private individual to
Worth a bit. Well, it's nice.
investment, etc. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much, Stefano, for the details. I think we are coming to the top of the hour, but my God, I got a list of things I would like to talk to you about, and I would like to really invite you again to dive a little bit more deeper into areas that we didn't get a chance to. So
Sure.
before we end, I always give an opportunity to our guest. The opportunity to, because we are here because of people around us. They helped us in so many ways, whether it's cheering us on the sidelines or really be part of our journey, right? So I always say that let's pick. I would like to give the opportunity for you to give roses to people around you who support you or who inspired you or who keeps on sort of supporting you to to be a trailblazer. So,
Yeah, all right. Wow. Okay. There are really a lot of people that are part of my journey. But look, in this very, very moment, I'm very grateful to the blockchain committee at ACS. That is really a bunch of inspired people that really believe in what we are doing together, and volunteer our time, our busy times into make Web3 and blockchain happen in this country. And it may be cheesy, but I also very grateful to my family for supporting me in this journey, because of taking the time to volunteer, to write books, and to do all the things that I happen to do and I enjoy and love doing, is a commitment of time, and sometimes the time is taken from family as well. They are behind that was fully supportive, and impossible without this strong encouragement.
Oh, that's great. I mean, family plays a huge part in everyone's life. When you are working on something like this passionate, it's not just a 9-to-5 job. It's your passion. It's because it consumes, right? And somewhere someone has to give in, and sometimes it's families, family time and having a supportive family, and I think it's super important. So, all right, thank you, Stefano. So, if anyone now, when they listen to this podcast, and if they say like, okay, I want to connect with Stefano, with projects and lectures and as advisory or any of that, where can we send people to? If you got any social media or...
So look, probably the best way is certainly LinkedIn. I accept everybody nice that add as a connection, or through ACS, acs.org.au. You'll find the blockchain committee there. You'll find me and the other blockchain members, and you will find me around some ACS events and meetups, conferences, this sort of things. But otherwise, LinkedIn and ACS are the best way of connection.
Cool. And we'll put your LinkedIn profile in the podcast so that anyone can connect with you. And yeah, first of all, again, thank you so much for your time. You gave that time while you're away as well, which is, we are super grateful for that. And you brought so much value and really cool conversations. And yeah, I say like the time was not enough. And I would really love to have you back on our podcast to talk a little bit other cool stuff. So
there always is so many cool stuff that we can talk about. So looking forward to it. And again, great for the opportunity, and we'll definitely. Thanks everybody for watching.
Mm.